Joining us now, King 5 law enforcement analyst Carmen Best. And Carmen has been in law enforcement for more than 20 years and is a former Seattle police chief. Glad to always have you on, Carmen. It doesn't seem here that Chauvin is the only one on trial. His team is trying to shift at least part of the blame to his police training and that he was just doing his job. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, well, I think it was great that they pointed out all of the various tactics that they're going to use here. One of the things that we want to make sure we stay away from is victim blaming in this type of incident. And certainly in any training that I've seen, while some of those tactics are used on a temporary basis, I have not seen a case where that has been the case where people can or should or have been trained to keep their knee on someone's neck for that length of time as part of training. And force is modulated. So as the resistance is reduced, the level of force is reduced. And so there were some very valid arguments as to why it continued for the length of time that it did. I look forward to seeing how this plays out, but I believe that most people who witnessed that would say that the subject, Mr. Floyd, was pretty complacent for several moments there and would have to question why the knee remained there in the manner that it did. And I haven't seen any police training where they ask people to continue a higher level of force than is reasonably necessary to take a person into custody.
And see, these are the nuances that you get into that most of the general public is not privy to. I was going to ask you how widespread or how accepted this tactic of kneeling on somebody's neck is during an arrest, or how accepted it was maybe before the case. But maybe it's not just a matter of kneeling on somebody's neck, although it doesn't sound like that is going to be allowed, or I don't know if the public will find it acceptable. Yeah. But it's not just the kneeling; it's the time frame and de-escalating that you were talking about that may be important here.
Right, absolutely, Greg. It's why I myself have been in situations where multiple officers have had to restrain a person, and in doing so, we always modulate and give the least amount of force necessary to take a person safely into custody. And I think clearly here there's an argument for why that just did not happen.
Do you talk about the de-escalation? Obviously, SPD, that's something, part of the training that came with the consent decree. Boy, it's almost 10 years ago that became a thing here with SPD. Do you see this with other departments moving toward more of those de-escalation tactics?
Absolutely. Most agencies that are progressive, that are looking to the future, even an agency that's wanted just to limit their liability is certainly going to be looking at de-escalation tactics, making sure they use time and distance and shielding before rushing in, making sure that they're doing all that they can to minimize the contact between the subject and the officers, and obviously to reduce the level of force involved in any of that contact, if at all possible. And so I believe that there are going to be a lot of questions raised as to why that knee remained where it did for so long. And it's good that they pointed out all of the tactics that were available and how they can vary, just like you pointed out a little bit ago.
And real quickly, I mean, obviously Chauvin's on trial. Do you think the police department there is, to a degree?
To a degree, yes. Certainly, people want to see justice served. And as many people all across the globe were watching this, they felt a certain way, and that really started another race and social justice reckoning. And so I think people are looking for justice to be served, and I think it's great that both the prosecutor and the defense brought the temperature down a bit by being very methodical in their arguments, and that might help down the line. But certainly people in Minneapolis are looking for an outcome. Who knows whether it'll happen or not in the way that people are thinking. But there's a potential there for Minneapolis to suffer, depending upon the outcome here.
Well, it'll be interesting to watch as this trial continues. King 5 law enforcement analyst Carmen Best, appreciate you coming on as usual. Thanks, Carmen.